Hiya guys and welcome back. Today we're doing another classic review and we've got Fede Álvarez's 2013 Evil Dead. We've
Yes.
got blood-soaked chainsaws, severed limbs, sliced tongues, people slipping on torn off flesh. Is this another bad copy of a horror classic or is it the most underrated remake of all time?
Maybe not of all time, but I would say it's severely underrated.
Yes.
It's a strange thing because I think it was a little bit like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake, where how can they touch this? How can they do this? But it proved that you can remake a really good film and make it not necessarily better, but do something
Yes.
different. Um, I would say Evil Dead is an easier one to remake. If they were trying to remake Evil Dead 2, then I'd be like, no, 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 you know? And let's be honest, I'm not going to get in this discussion, but Evil Dead 2 is a remake of Evil Dead 1. But Evil Dead 1 is easy to remake, I think, because it's a really good film and it's very serious, but there's so much you can do with with modern practical effects and modern writing. And Fede Alvarez does a fantastic job. It's gory. There's very little humor in it. There's a couple of moments with the guy with
Yeah.
glasses, but in general, it is one of the most brutal movies I've ever seen, and so much so, my wife she had to switch it off. She couldn't finish it, and that's why she hasn't watched
Yeah,
Evil Dead Rise. Yeah,
that's a sign of a good film. My
no,
thing with this one is, and like going back to what you said about Evil Dead 1 being like a good movie to remake, is because the second one, you've got Bruce Campbell coming into Ash Williams. He
yes,
becomes iconic because of his performance, whereas the first one, it's a pretty basic paint by numbers movie. You've got a group of people that go to a location and they start getting killed off. Ash doesn't really shine in the first movie as much as he does in the sequels. They don't really amp up the character of him until the second one. And that's all they needed to do is with the first one is they needed to send people to a cabin and it needed to be as nasty as possible.
yes.
And that's exactly what they done with this one. I remember this one coming out in 2013. I think I was just about old enough to see it, maybe, or a little bit older. But I grew up loving this franchise. It is my favorite franchise of all time. And I couldn't believe it. I remember the trailer coming out and I thought, oh my God, a new Evil Dead movie, because we hadn't had one
Yeah,
since obviously Army of Darkness in the early 90s. And I couldn't believe it. And I watched this one in cinema 3 times. I
yeah,
think it was 2 days in a row. And then I had a few days break and I went back again because I couldn't believe my eyes and I absolutely loved it. I remember being disappointed at first that it wasn't going to be funny, but I don't know what the hell I was thinking because it needs to be a horror movie.
yeah,
If it hasn't got Bruce Campbell in there, don't even try and make it funny because
yeah,
he's the only funny thing about the Evil Dead movies is his character.
yeah.
Um, but they done an absolute cracking job with this one. And what's really special about this one is that Evil Dead came out at a time where movies like that really weren't accepted. And it was really bizarre to have a movie that violent, and obviously it was controversial. Now, cut to modern days, everyone's used to all this kind of
Yeah.
stuff, and everyone's kind of, what's the word I'm looking for?
Desensitized.
Desensitized to all
Yeah,
this kind of stuff, and movies don't really get banned these days. And you're thinking, how can this movie top the original? And it's
yeah.
still in 2013 a horror movie
Well,
that that is disgusting.
yeah. Well. The scene that got the first one banned was the vines going up the woman's bits. Yeah,
Yes,
and
yes, of
I don't know,
course.
was it banned everywhere, or just in Britain? I know it was a video nasty, the first one.
Yeah, I know
I think.
definitely Britain. I don't
Yeah,
know.
well, so that was the moment where it got banned because of that scene. So
What,
they
lots of
do.
pence in the ankle? I would have banned.
No, not that. It was yeah, it was the fanny scene,
Yes,
right? Now they recreate that much better, obviously, with modern technology and stuff.
yes, yes, yes.
And it's slightly more disturbing in the new one because of her reaction is much more believable and horrible.
Stop
Like,
dead and
yeah,
like,
not
yeah.
yes. And but again, it's still shocking to see, but no one's in. There was no sign of like, let's get this banned. That's disgusting. What I do love about the remake, uh, Ash being the hero of this sort of horror is quite unique in some way, because most horrors are better served when you have a final girl. Um, most horrors are all the main characters all the main horror franchise tend to have a female. Jamie Lee Curtis, you got Sidney Prescott, all of them. Nancy from Nightmare on Elm Street, and I think if you're going to remake this film, don't try and get a new Ash. Don't try to get a buff guy.
Yes.
Go back to the basics of get a final girl, and you can't really go wrong with the actress they used. I can't remember her name. I researched everything, but her name.
And
What's her name?
what's um
She's in loads
Jane
of.
Levy.
Yeah,
Jane.
she's asset. She's in loads of stuff like Shameless and things like
Yes.
that. Yeah, she's great.
Yes. And exactly what you said there, right? About obviously them going back to a final girl, and she's great in it.
Yeah,
But what's brilliant about this is that 90% of the movie, she's the villain.
yeah, I
He's
know, I know.
the main deadite, and that's what I love about it. It absolutely flips that whole idea on his head. She's the one that gets possessed. She's the big bad stuck in the basement,
Yeah, she's
and
terrifying.
then you get that flip at the end where she's the hero, she's the final girl, and basically she's our new Ash. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I think
Great flip.
I think what's great about that and potentially negative is one. So if it's negative, you're thinking, who am I rooting for? Am I rooting for the guy? Am I rooting for the blonde girl? And when I saw the blonde girl, when the one who chopped her arm off with the thing, I thought, oh,
Yes.
she's going to be the Ash. She's going to cut the hand off, and she's going to be a badass. She's going to be like the girl from The Descent, covered in blood and just shits hit the fan. But then, obviously, like you said, it throws her on the head, and Jane Levy becomes the main hero. So that could be a negative and a positive. Negative that we
100%.
like, I want someone to root for. And positive, like, fuck, I've never seen that before, and it's, you got to try things.
So the absolute best thing about this movie is that, like all the great horror movies, they chuck you in a location, and
Yeah,
once you're in that place, the movie starts and it doesn't let go. Now, there is so many scenes in this movie, right? That still to this day, I've seen this movie easily 30 times, right?
yeah,
Since it came out, maybe more. It's one I go back to a lot. I've probably seen it more than the originals because I am such a big fan of extreme gore, and
yeah.
this movie obviously delivers. But there's one scene in particular, right, in this movie that absolutely kills me. It's the Stanley blade on the tongue.
Oh, yes.
When she's licking up the Stanley blade and her
I
tongue
know.
splits. Oh my
Yeah.
god, it's horrific. That's
What's great.
probably one of the most inventive gore scenes I've seen.
Well, what I love about this film is that, which I can't believe this is Fed's first film. I think he
Yeah, I
just made
know.
some YouTube videos. Sam Raimi selected him. He's a bit of a genius for selecting people,
Yes,
probably more so
100%.
than a filmmaker. So the scene where oh, I can't remember which character it is, but she's cutting her own face off, it's
Yes.
hanging off, and it drops on the floor, a piece of flesh, and the boyfriend slips on it, smashes his face on the toilet or the sink, I forget now. And it's so good because it's quite funny. It's
Yes.
horrifying, but the fact he slips on it shouldn't be funny. But that is like, anyone else might watch you think, why is that funny? It's like, it is funny, and this director is clever. He hasn't tried to make a comedic moment. It's serious still, but if you know
Yes.
horror, yes, that is the blackest of black comedies.
Oh,
Really
100%.
horrible. Like, I
And
love it.
and that scene as well in particular, there's another bit that turns my stomach because you kind of know what she's doing when he
Yeah.
walks into the bathroom and it's dark and obviously the lights flickering. And the only thing you can't see her face, but you can hear the
Yes.
carving and
Yeah.
the cheek squelching.
It's
And you
brilliant.
kind of know what she's doing, but
Yeah.
that scene, oh my god. And the scene as well where Jane Levy's in the Mia, she's in the shower,
Yes.
boiling herself and her
It's
skin's
brilliant.
pulling away. Oh my god.
What I love
What a
about this.
grimy film.
It is grimy, and we watched it not long ago again when you came over,
Yes.
maybe a month or two ago. And I, when I first watched it, I didn't love it. I just thought, oh, that was a good remake. But over time, I've grown to love it,
Yes.
possibly more than most of them. But what I love about this movie concept, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it could be, might not be the first time. But to have it that she's a heroin addict and they're trying to keep her in this cabin as rehab. It's like kind of what they call it now. Oh, I've forgotten
Cold
the name.
turkey, cold
Cold
turkey.
turkey, and they're all stuck in this cabin. And it's like, don't whatever she says, do not listen to her. She'll do anything to get out of this cabin. She's an
Yes.
addict. Do not trust her. And it is the perfect vehicle for this kind of horror because you can't go, oh, come on, they just go home. It's like, no, 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 no. They're not listening to her. She's full of shit. And what's great, she gets possessed potentially because she's vulnerable and she's more prone to get possessed because she's such a vulnerable state. Or
Yes.
maybe they can see that she's a good target. The demon can see that she's. So it's not like, oh, how well the odds are she was the one to get possessed. Well, you could argue that yeah, she would be most likely to be targeted, and that's what makes this film so unique. You know?
Yeah, and they really dial down on that as well. Obviously, when her brother David gets to the cabin, he's the last one there. Everyone's
Yeah,
already there, and he's been out of her life for a long time, and he doesn't really know what's going on. But these group of friends have been the ones that have been there for her, trying to help her get over this addiction. And when they're outside the cabin, like he explains to her, he's like, "Look, this time we are not letting her go. This has happened. This is like I don't know, like the
yeah,
fifth time it's happened."
yes,
And she can't get through it. So they absolutely dial down on everything. And that's what's great about it. They haven't just gone, oh, she's going cold turkey and they're just going to leave her because thing. No, no,
yeah,
she's been doing this for ages. So
yes,
they're like doubling down. No, you're
yeah.
not leaving. It's
Uh, and
brilliant, brilliant idea.
Do you know what I was saying about my wife? Had to switch it off because it was too gory for her. I think since we've had kids, she's a little bit more sensitive to these things, which is fair enough. I don't. There's some things I'm a little bit more sensitive to now, especially kids being harmed in films. I hate it.
Yes, 100%.
But I don't know whether I'm sadistic or I just want people to share good movies. But I said, are you going to watch Evil Dead Rise with me? And she goes, no, no way. If it's like the Evil Dead, I'm like, no, it's not as bad as Evil Dead. And I'm like, am I lying? And I thought, well, there's one bit where the kid swallows like glass and it's going
Well,
through her.
this is the thing. It's a worse movie for her to watch because this one does actually have kids in it.
Yes, they got
That
full
get
family.
harmed,
And
like, you know
yes,
what I mean?
so I don't know whether I wanted to torture my wife or I just want people to share in brilliance because Evil Dead, I would say Evil Dead and Evil Dead Rise are kind of like unofficial sequels to each other. They're connected more so than the Ash version. I didn't even like that silly cameo at the end of Evil Dead, right? Evil Dead 13, where it blacks out and
Can you just appreciate it? Because
no, it just takes it
what's
out of
wrong
the
with you?
moment.
No, it doesn't, Jenks. You can just appreciate a nice little cameo at the end.
It's not a cameo. It's just basically, I might as well look at the camera and go, Bruce Campbell.
And you know what? Real fans loved it, right? I was in a theater, right? Full of fans, and everyone was screaming when that came on, right? I will say, though, about 40 of those people that are in the cinema with me walked out after the first ghost scene. I just seen them leaving.
You're going to miss Ash. Ash is going to be on. Get back in. Who's Ash?
Oh, Jenks, you just appreciate it for what it is, right?
Fair enough. Fair enough.
It's the first time we'd seen Bruce Campbell as Ash since Army of Darkness, right? And it was a nice little glimmer of hope that we would get him back.
Yeah, first time he's been on big screen since Spider-Man 3.
Yeah,
Do you know,
in all
right?
fairness, yeah.
The only thing, all right, I love this film. I've been kissing this ass now for the last 15 minutes. The one thing that's always bothered me about this film, okay, because I'm not a type of fan who will just love a film and not talk about any flaws, because that's not a true fan, in my opinion. That's just going into things blind, like you.
Pretty
Uh,
much.
so the thing that always bugged me is Mia. She gets her tongue cut, her face burnt. She's battered, right? And when she's unpossessed, if that's the right word, she's not hasn't got a scratch on her. And I'm like, but she still should have a cut tongue and a burnt face. It didn't make much sense to me. Do you agree?
Yeah, I do agree. I can't remember if she has a missing hand, though.
She traps her hand and she
No, I
pulls it
know
out.
that. I mean, when she comes back.
No, no, I think her hand's
Oh, there's
gone because
after.
that's gone
It's
afterwards.
after, man.
But her
Yes, of
burnt
course.
face and tongue. Now, granted, you may not have seen the tongue. You could say, "Oh, you don't see it," but she scalded her face. At least give her a burnt face, for Christ's sake. It seems to be like you can do if you get possessed, you can have anything happen to you. Like when you're all right, then back to normal, extra
Yeah,
healthy.
but I think at least like it's just part of the law, I suppose. Once the dead that has taken over your body, it's not your body anymore. It's theirs. It's their skin.
Oh,
So
that's clutching the straws now, isn't it?
no, it's not,
Come on,
right?
now you're sticking up for
It's a
Deadites.
made up story, right?
Well,
They can do
okay.
what they want. They can do what they
No, they
want.
can't.
It's not her skin anymore, right? She didn't cut her tongue, right? That belongs to the dead, right?
Right.
As she says, Mia's in hell now. She's not there anymore, so it's not her skin, you know?
Well, okay, fair enough. Magic did it. Look, I am debating a film where you've got like a zombie Henrietta turning into a big snake woman. Like,
I
hang
know, what the
on,
hell?
how is that neck stretching?
I'm pretty sure, right, Henrietta, pre-dead, right, couldn't turn into that monster. Her neck couldn't stretch that long.
Yeah, but the genetic code changes when you become. Oh fuck, I can't even say it. I will say a little bit of nugget for people who unaware that you and I are Welsh. We do go on about it a bit. At the start of this film, you probably know this. This when they're chanting like when they're trying to get I don't know the word depossess.
Yes, yeah.
What's the word? It's not a word. Depossess. I don't know.
It's just an
Whatever.
exorcism.
Exorcism. That's the word. Why didn't you correct me earlier? I said depossessed. Anyway, they're saying Welsh, and in the subtitle, I could be wrong. I'm sure they say Turkish translation or something like that, and it's actually Welsh. And I think they just looked for a language that sounded like nonsense. They thought,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah. Nonsense.
no one's going to notice. Yes, but yes, I love this film. I would highly recommend it for anyone who hasn't seen it, and I would definitely watch Evil Dead Rise as a companion
Yes.
movie. Would you agree? Yeah.
100%. They've
Yes.
already said there's 3 books in the universe, and we've got Evil Dead 2013 and Evil Dead Rise. You can count that as 2 books. And I'm quite eager to see what they do with the next 2 that are going to be coming out. Are they going to be
Yes.
based on the same books or the 3rd book? Who knows?
That sounds awesome.
But yes, you can take these 2 as companions. You can watch them back to back. Definitely, they don't really connect character wise, but stylistically and guide, I'd say they go
Yes.
hand in hand. Like.
Guys, if you enjoyed that video, if you love horror reviews, classics, and new videos, rankings, please subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one. Cheers, guys.
Cheers, guys. Catch you on the next one.